not only do you have to now invest in lead generation efforts, but also content. Talk about what level of commitment that you're seeing that's really required to kind of build trust with investors. Like, is it something, an email you put out once a month or once a quarter? Is it, what do you see that's working? You want them to invest, right? So it's
Yeah.
all starts with some kind of lead traffic, or wherever that comes from, a podcast or something like that, and then downloading this lead magnet. But there's a long road to go between, getting essentially what's now a cold lead and someone who's an investor. You talked about filling out a form, booking a call. What are
Yeah.
some of those things that need to happen between that download and someone investing? What are all those things that could happen or should happen?
Yeah. So just kind of a general idea, like the flow you'd want them to have is like maybe they sign up for the lead magnet, then maybe you have them fill out that form, give you more information. Maybe next you would want them to book a call. And then you find out on that call, like how good of a lead is this? Is this somebody I want to show deals to? Maybe put them in a different place so that then when there is a deal, you can target them and show them the deal and kind of move them along in that process. But along each of those steps, like people typically aren't going to just go to the next step immediately. Like they're going to sign up for the lead magnet, but they're not going to fill out the form. So you need to have stuff in place for when that happens. Like, okay, they've signed up. Okay, now they're going to get this series of emails that follows up with them until they take the action that you want them to take. And kind of each step along the way, like have those kind of things in place. Have emails that are going out to them. It could be text too. They kind of move them toward that next step that you want them to take. And of course, yeah, go ahead.
So you have 100 people downloading lead, maybe 200 people and 300 people, and you're saying you should be emailing them and getting them to do the next thing. It seems like a lot of work to have to do that.
Yeah, if you're
How
doing it
many
all
people do
manually.
all that work?
Right, yeah, if you had to do it all manually, it just isn't going to happen. Like you're going to forget, it's something's going to fall through the cracks. So that's where like a good CRM or email marketing system can do a lot of that for you. You can set up automations so you can figure out, okay, what do I need to send them in what order to get them to take the next step, and then write those emails, get them put into a system so that when you add a new contact, they're automatically going to get that series of emails that some people call it a nurture series. Like you're kind of nurturing that lead, warming them up, building that relationship, getting them to take the next step, and just all along the way you should have stuff like that in place that keeps them moving. Because if you're depending on your memory to do it, like it's just not going to happen. Or if you're you know yeah, and then if you don't plan it out and have a process for it, it's not going to happen either, and people are definitely going to fall through the cracks.
So this automation situation is very important, obviously. What we found is that more recently in this new environment takes a lot more, I guess, interactions via like a phone call or via a direct Zoom. Are you seeing any of that right now in the market just to get people's attention? Or if not, what else are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that's good to do. I think human interaction, like one thing that I think some of the trends things are going, like more and more stuff is going to AI and there's all these automated things, but the more that's happening, the more people want the human touch. Like I think the more you can, include that wherever possible, having that human interaction is going to go a long ways, because we all get kind of annoyed by all the, chat bots and like automated voicemail, messaging systems where you're stuck in a loop of, AI. And so dealing with an actual human, I think wherever you can fit that in, I mean, wherever you can realistically fit it in, but making sure it gets done consistently too. But if you can make that happen, I think and I think maybe knowing the right touch points, like knowing when to do that, so that maybe a brand new lead comes in and like until you kind of, maybe if you have some like ways to pre-qualify them a little bit, so you can kind of know, okay, this is a good lead. I need to put this in my system to call them. So things like that I think could be, yeah, really, really good.
What are some of the best ways to pre-qualify people that you implement?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it depends on the stage, but like I would say, like for example, like maybe if you have a minimum investment, for example, like making sure they have that amount, or maybe if you're only doing certain kinds of deals, like asking some questions up front. One thing, if you're, for example, if you're doing pay-per-click ads, you can add, like let's just say Facebook ads, for example, you can add instead of just like asking for name and email, you can ask for another question or two that kind of pre-qualifies them, like just to make sure that they are somebody that you want to follow up with, make sure they're worth paying for as a lead and putting into your system, because it does take time and effort to follow up with each of these people. And so having and I think maybe it's going to be a little different for each person, but I mean, I think finding out their criteria, like what are they looking for, and making sure it aligns with what you're offering, and then simplifying that as much as possible. Like how can I ask this in the simplest way to make sure, like for example, are you looking to invest this year? Well, if they're not, then this is somebody that's not really not too serious. They're maybe like down the road, like maybe they'd be good to put on your list, but not like maybe you don't need to call them immediately.
Talk about the importance of content. I know there's a lot of syndicators are looking for the easy button, especially online. There's people that teach, hey, just do this thing online and you'll raise millions in days, right? And it's never been my experience, or actually our students, it's much more involved. You have to invest time and money into building this platform that you just described. But also once that's done, not only do you have to now invest in lead generation efforts, but also content. So talk about what level of commitment that you're seeing that's really required to kind of build trust with investors. Like, is it something, an email you put out once a month or once a quarter? Is it, what do you see that's working?
Yeah, I think some depends on what the people expect, and what they want, because you don't want to be too overboard and like annoy people, but you also don't want to do so infrequently that they forget who you are. So finding that sweet spot, and you can kind of judge some of that by how people respond, how much engagement you get with the emails and things. But for example, if you're sending out emails pretty often, you see a lot of people are unsubscribing. Well, maybe it's a bit too often, but if you're getting responses and people are engaged, then like that's great. Keep up. But yeah, it's a commitment to create content, because you do want to stay in touch with people. Like you want them to remember who you are, and when you first come in contact with them, they might not be ready to invest, but at the point when they are ready to invest, you want to be the top of their mind. You want to be the one that they're thinking of. So if they have an email from you in their inbox, then you're the one that they're gonna go to for that. So I think you have to kind of judge it based on your audience and how they respond. But I think frequent communication is good, and you can always tone it back if you need to. But like keeping in touch as much as you can keep up with it. That's the other thing. Like you want to do it consistently. So if you can't keep up with a weekly email, then do whatever you can do consistently so that people know what to expect from you. And they know, okay, it's time. I'm going to hear from them on this frequency. So yeah.
Now, you mentioned AI earlier. You got to ask the question with anything. What role does or should AI play in what we're talking about? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great tool. It can save you a lot of time and money, but you have to use it strategically, because you do want to maintain your brand voice. You want investors to have a positive experience. I've found with AI, it tends to pay. It pays to pay for the premium versions a lot of times and train it. Just for example, like ChatGPT is one that a lot of people know, and if you pay for it, you can actually train a GPT on your company specifically. You can upload documents about your brand voice. You can tell it all about your company, so that when it's writing, and you can tell it the style you want to write in and everything like that too. So I think it can help a lot with content creation, like blog posts, newsletters. But just a few things, like always fact check, because sometimes it just makes stuff up. Sometimes it gets details wrong. Sometimes it will make up quotes that nobody ever said. It'll create fake testimonials. So just be careful with it. Don't just copy and paste and just send it. You want to, it still needs the other AI, which is actual intelligence, to make it effective. Like you've got to put your own brain into it and kind of check it out first. But there's a lot of really cool things you can do with it. I mean, you can tell it to role play. You can, say you're a passive investor and I'm an apartment syndicator. I'd like you to invest with me, and then go back and forth with it, ask it questions, see like what are some objections that you have and what are some concerns you might have, and like you can learn from it that way and kind of learn how to even overcome those objections. Or maybe you have to write a difficult email. Your property manager's sending you a message and they're overreacting to something that sounds kind of demanding. You want to reply in a way that addresses it, but also puts them in their place a little bit in a kind way. So you can tell ChatGPT how to do that, and then tell it the tone you want to go for, all of that kind of stuff. It can help as sort of a filter, between like what you want to say and what you actually end up sending. So it's funny, but you can actually use AI to help you sound more human sometimes, be more empathetic or be more friendly. So yeah, there's benefits to it, but definitely you want to use it wisely. Definitely always edit the content before it goes out. Don't overdo it, and yeah, use it cautious, or use it wisely, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.